You are now tuned in to the GNWY podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the GNWY podcast. We are in Denver, Colorado, everybody, and we have got so many amazing interviews. And today is actually probably one of my top favorites. Don't tell everybody else because how did you know I was going to say that?
I just know. We just have this kindred love.
Right here.
It's so that.
Tamara, everybody, if you can make some noise for Miss Tamara in the building. You just got done speaking and you crushed it. Okay, so there's a lot of points that you made, and for one, I think that the biggest thing, you changed your whole talk.
Yeah.
In what, 30 or 24 hours? Or
12, about 12 hours after Coverly spoke. And
Wow.
he prayed for me afterwards. And I was just like, I think I'm supposed to change my whole talk.
Wow.
I didn't end up having to fully.
Okay.
Because when I sealed, right before I went to sleep, I sealed it in my spirit, or he did.
Yeah.
That they actually need to hear it again. Ooh. And so and this is the beauty about hosting events, is everyone comes together in such synchronicity, and you cannot plan it. It's only God.
Right.
And it had to go deeper.
Yeah.
So we talk about limiting beliefs all the time. And I know from a mental health perspective, that's like where the battlefield is, right? It's like right here, all day, every day, right now, in this moment, right?
Yeah.
And we have to go actually to the deeper core element, because what happens when we leave said limiting belief is we go to something that we crave in our flesh to help suppress what our mind is doing.
That's real.
And so that's honestly what Gen Y needs more of, and I'm sure you all do on a consistent basis. Like you see those revival movements where they're throwing their phone, they're throwing their vape pen, they're throwing all these things that are on their lust factor, their greed factor, their crave factor.
That's real, yeah.
So that's why I was like, I don't like to do hard messages like that. I want to do the fun, loving,
you were
business
coming for
chat.
Everybody's toes. Yeah. That was great. Yeah.
I had to.
The
Lord
dope.
said go, and I said, okay.
But you deliver it with such like boldness, but then also is like conviction at the same time, because your story is so amazing. You have a book and everything, Always Becoming. When did this drop?
This dropped in 2021, but cool news.
So it was at Dallas?
Yeah.
Okay.
But cool news, it's actually
other.
coming out again, fully distributed in all the bookstores.
What?
Because the first time around, it was just a self-publish on Amazon.
Yeah.
And since becoming a full publishing house with Fit Press, we now have distribution across the world for our books.
Wow.
And so we'll be in Barnes & Noble, Books A Million,
Let's go.
all the places. And I'm so excited about it, because it's a message that is always becoming. It's a message that is evergreen. And while it'd be nice to put the thing that's like kind of embarrassing, has elements of shame, is like the depths of our story behind us so we can move on, I realize that the more I embrace it, the more God does with it.
Yeah. That's real. Okay. I'm blown away. Okay, so you have so many amazing like facets to you as well. So you have a podcast, right? And then what else do you do for the people who do not know Tamara fully?
So I have a podcast. It's called Fit in Faith.
Yes.
And FIT stands for Founders, Innovators, and Trailblazers.
Ooh.
So a lot of people are like, oh, it's a fitness podcast. I'm like, no, but I do want you to be spiritually fit, mentally fit, relationally fit, all those things. Because if you don't focus on them as an entrepreneur, everything crashes and burns. Part of my story, you'll learn. I also
that was a plug to go.
You got it. I also am a Christian coach for businesses. So people who are looking to just grow their ministries, looking to say yes to their message for the first time, or looking to grow their message into the scalability factor of like, hey, I'm in for 6 and 7 figures. And so every message has that potential. And when we're mission minded like you are, it's so easy and it's so natural, because the Lord just gets to work through me. It's like a prophetic gift of this is the vision that I see, and this is where you're meant to go. Let's get there. And so with that and the publishing house, I'm kind of like a woman of many hats.
Many hats.
I have a nonprofit.
And you're ordained as well.
I am ordained.
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
You said what was the nonprofit though?
The nonprofit is called the Founder Collective.
Yes.
Founder. And we host a conference every year for faith-driven entrepreneurs. And so it'll be an extension to why we're here today with Embrace Your Ambition. They really have a lot of synchronicity. I'm so grateful.
When is your event?
It's in Raleigh, North Carolina, November 10th and 11th.
Sounds like a familiar date.
Yeah, because GNWY gonna be there.
Let's go. Yes. is.
It's going to be epic.
Backstory on this thing. Okay, so for the people who don't know, okay, they were auctioning off a free school assembly, and then somebody I didn't know was connected to Tamara over the past 2 years that we knew each other from Dallas, all that kind of stuff. We'd been talking. I'm a procrastinator, the laziest productive person you'll ever meet.
Business to tend to.
Hey, you know what it is. You know what it is. Okay, but yeah, so that whole thing, and then legit today or yesterday, they raffled off, and then somebody, said, I'll sponsor the free school assembly. And it's in Virginia Beach.
BB,
look how things just line up full circle.
Yeah, and if they're coming to the East Coast, we got to hit 2 states at once, because why not?
Why not?
It's going to be insane.
Exactly.
And I really believe that the Lord prepared our path for that, yours inclusive, and to be able to come, and also we get to be with your bride.
Yes.
Like, you weren't even married the first time that I don't even know if you guys were engaged.
No,
maybe.
We were just dating.
Okay, it happened soon after.
It was just a filling out thing,
That's so crazy. And so
now we filling out.
That shame and love. He know where it's at.
Let's go.
Without the shame.
Right, of course,
Okay.
yeah. Get it locked down,
covering. But it's cool because Gary and I are so passionate about marriages, and I think knowing GNWY and the people who likely are a part of listening to this podcast, whether adult or not, marriage is such a beautiful experience, and I threw it to the wind for a long time. And even when I was like dating to get married, I didn't even know what love really was, because I had never experienced eternal love, and I had never loved myself.
That's great. That's what you said earlier, that you threatened him with either you do this now or I'm
pretty much, because
here.
I thought that's the next step of my life, right? And I am a recovering overachiever, perfectionist, all the things, people pleaser.
Definitely.
And in that process, I'm like, listen, I've gone to school, I've done the thing. It's time for me to get married, have a baby, build a house, and have the American dream. And literally, people called us Barbie and Ken. Drove me nuts afterwards, but during it I'm like, oh yeah, we doing that thing, right? We had that white picket fence, the 2 nice cars, the youngest kids in the neighborhood, and yet we were missing so much depth to what we now have. So to be able to pour into you and your bride when you're there is going to be a gift.
Why do you think people are looking for those like next stages in life?
It's indoctrination. Like, let's just be real.
Society type stuff.
Absolutely. It's a societal norm. And what happens the day you get married? What do people ask you at your wedding?
When are you going to have kids?
That is not okay. Can you please be married?
Let us practice for a while.
Just hang out. Be together. Build a home. Build a life. Build a financially sound environment to bring said child that costs a lot of money into the scenario. Have you even at that point really talked about your parenting tactics or your strategies? We didn't know each other's trauma. We didn't know each other's mental health journey before we got married. So we had to do that after we had kids. I don't suggest it.
It was like playing catch up type thing.
It was so tough.
Oh goodness. And they say that like the first to 5 years is the worst.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And everyone says like the 7-year itch, right? Of like, I don't know how I like you. Well, that's because every 7 years your DNA structure actually shifts. And so you actually are a different person every 7 years. And if you aren't dating your wife, you're going to show up one day and be like, I don't know you. Wow. And so we did that. That's what happened because we had kids less than 12 months after we got married. We had a child. And even when we dated, I wasn't fully present. I was just checking a box. And so I'm so passionate for people who are walking through, even just being a boyfriend and girlfriend. What does that really mean? And what's the intention behind it?
What's the intention? That's the biggest thing.
Because it's dumb. Otherwise, the intention is the first one, sex, which then leads to shame. And then your love story is actually broken.
Oh, God. You see how she keeps doing that subtly? But that is so
This
good.
is ingrained
But it's
in
real.
me.
I mean, definitely. Because it's like, I mean, if anything, I think we were talking about it last night with somebody, but like, it's legit. Somebody that's what I was talking to one of the EYA people, and I was asking them 21 questions, right?
Cool.
And they were like, in the middle of it, they're like, why are you asking me so many questions? Like, I've never had somebody like ask me, and you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I sat there and thought about that, and I was like, there's probably a lot of people who, for one, either ask questions with the wrong intentions and the wrong heart, just to manipulate a situation. But like, I'm genuinely, my heart is to know people. That's why we do podcasts. That's why, you know what I'm saying? I love to ask questions because I care about, you know what I'm saying, somebody's heart. I think it's very interesting when somebody has a different intellect or like, you know, knowledge about certain things or whatever. And that's why, for one, you're incredible. She's a mind-blowing person. Look her up on everything. But like, for real, Tamara has not only a story, but like a very depth to her because you've been able to heal and grow through the things that you went through.
Yeah. And that's not to say any of my life is like picture perfect right now, right? It's like this knowing I still walk through battles. I still have familial issues. I still have a lot of things that go on and go wrong, quote unquote, on a given basis. But I'm constantly moved by Christ in what I just spoke about, in my craving to become like Christ. He convicts me. And convicting is not easy. It's a pruning process. It hurts. And yet I have so much unspeakable joy because I know on the other side of said pruning, I'm going to blossom to be even more than what I am now, which sounds perplexing sometimes to myself. And when I see myself in the mirror, it's why I can get to that place of like, why me, God? Why choose me to do this trailblazing? It's hard to be a trailblazer. You've been trailblazing for 6 years with GNWY, and it's hard. And I'm sure there's moments where you're like, I'd like to give up, or I'd like somebody else to come in and fix this situation. And God's like, I put the mantle on your shoulders with purpose, and you're the only one who can carry it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate it. No, that's real though. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and that's why you're super dope. So, okay, I've got 2 last questions for you. Okay. One, what do you think, or how can somebody pursue purpose? And then, what are your tips and tricks for either your personal mental health or mental health in general? Because that's what we talk about with GNWY. So,
okay. Purpose. Know your passions and know your gifts. Okay. If you don't know that, you can't discover purpose because your passion is linked to your creator. Gifts are given by your creator. So in order to know your purpose, you have to know God. And he reveals as you see yourself in his reflection. And so the next step would be pursue God, right? So understanding purpose, you have to first know your creator. And then the next step in order to actually activate said purpose and heal and be in that state of mental health, it's constantly coming back to Christ. And it sounds kind of like churchy and woo-woo, and there's that ordained minister side coming out of you, but truly, everything we talked about today, I have tried every other thing that the world has presented as a way to move past pain, move past depression, move past suicidal ideation. Right? It doesn't do anything. It might temporarily feel good. It might temporarily satisfy, but satisfaction is not sustenance. Sustenance is eternal. Just like success is not eternal. It's truly not. And so I want to get to heaven's gates, and I want him to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And the only way I can do that is if I'm a servant serving God, not serving my flesh.
That's real. That's dope. Good answer. Good answer. Good Family Feud. Good answer.
I have to say something, Jordan, because you've always been really good at asking questions, and hopefully you haven't heard this before, but if you haven't, or you have and they haven't, then it's for them too, is it's more important to be interested than it is to be interesting.
What the heck? That was a good one. I've never heard that one. That was a bar, dude.
Yeah, okay. As you were speaking, I was like, I have to tell him
this.
That
was dope.
Because you are interested, which then that curiosity provokes me wanting to give. And so while it's not your tactic, and that's why I love you so much, because I know your heart is pure in that, it is an invitation. It's very invitational, and that is your presence, which allows all these kids who are being impacted to know that you don't want anything from them, and you're interested in them. And so that's what podcasting is about. I love podcasting. It's one of the funnest thing that we do, right? But you've got a book, you've got a story, you've got all these things inside of you. And so I could put you in the hot seat, and I will, and ask you all the questions because I'm interested in what the Lord has done in your life. And when you share, and when you do your spoken words, and when you do your songs and you're dancing, all the things, I don't dance. So, you do dance. You move. You did it. You did. Ah. But it is telling a story, and there's more to that story. And so I'm gonna put you on the hot seat, and we'll blast it on GNWY podcast too. Oh, let's go. That's the thing. I think Tom was talking about it the other day, but for some reason it's definitely harder to tell your story. In front of other people, but it is.
a lot easier to help guide somebody
So good.
through their life and their trauma and everything. Because I don't know why, but you know what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
it's vulnerable. I mean, I get on podcasts and people are like, let's dissect your book. And especially with like a guy, like that's hard because a lot of it was trauma based on men, right? And so I'm like, I'm going to tell you something, and you might have done it, or you might have been a culprit of it, and you might be doing it right now.
Whoa,
and I have to sit here
that's
and be
real.
like, okay, so as much as I eagerly anticipate conviction on my end, it's why I have to be comfortable enough and bold enough to step on people's toes and create conviction opportunities for them too.
That's great. I didn't even think of that perspective because your story is like,
Whew.
wow.
It
That's
does.
crazy.
Isn't that what
Wow.
Jesus did though? He's a parable. He's a storyteller.
He's a table flipper.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
for sure.
And he does it by telling his own lens, not by pointing. I don't have to point at you when I get to tell my story. You're like, ooh, I do that too. Ooh, that's going to end up like that too. And so what can I do now? And that's the biggest question that everyone should be asking is, what can you do now?
Wow. Yeah, that's dope. Okay. Last question. Mental health. What are some tips and tricks for your own that you use for your mental health? And then maybe, for somebody else.
Yeah. What's the story you're telling yourself, right? If I feel any emotion, it could be good, it could be bad. I want to know where that stems from. So as much as you ask me questions, I ask myself questions. Tamara, what's that from? Where is that emotion stemming from? Why do you feel that way? Oh, there's a why to everything. Is that your tagline that I didn't know? Come on, there's a why to everything. Free people, free people. Let's go.
Let's go.
So that would be one of them. I also spend a lot of time in the Word every single morning. I also believe you've got to move, right? Like those endorphins are so important. And if you stay stagnant, you die. And that's physically true, mentally true, right? Faith without works is dead. And so I really believe in the fact that like when I move my body, I get outside of my head. And so I try to spend as much time in my body because I'm always in my head. And so that body could be intimacy with my spouse. That body could be snuggling with my babies. That could be me going for a run. That could be me pedaling, preaching. Have you ever seen me
I've
pedal?
seen you be
That's
rocking
so
it
fun.
and then talking at the same time. Like, bro, take a break. Like, that's wild.
Breathe.
Yeah. Yes.
Breathe.
I'm like, how are you
That was
talking full
all
paragraphs and you're, you know what I'm saying?
I
It's
had
crazy.
to. That was a God prompting,
That's
and
so
he's
dope.
taught me so much through that. And that's the thing of like press play and go. Stop pressing play with practice. That's what a lot of people are doing.
Say that one more time.
Press play and go. Stop pressing play and practicing, because practicing is not progression.
You just added on to it? Jeez, that was good. Okay.
Well, because practicing is perfection, right? Like you're
Yeah,
constantly like, that's in the book too, by the way, is like people are practiced towards perfection, and perfection doesn't exist.
Right.
So I was a gymnast for 16 years, and I never, even though Beam was like, I was good, right? I never got a 10.0. I never landed a perfect score. And I know there are Olympians and stuff that do, but what did they give up to get that perfection? I wasn't willing to give certain things up in order to do what I thought needed to be done to be perfect. And so I realized that practice is always progression, but it's never perfection. And when I let that go, I was like, whoa, this is kind of fun. It takes the pressure off of it. So when you press play and you're just having fun, people will listen because they're attuned to your spirit. They're not just listening to your words.
That's good. I don't think I've ever seen you not happy or exuding like energy, you know what I'm saying? And I really, I admire that, you know what I'm saying? Like that's so dope, especially for somebody who, you've been through a lot. Read the book. But you know what I'm saying?
He
like,
did that one.
I did.
That was good. I got you.
That was dope. But you know what I'm saying? Like from Dallas to here, and even here, I'd be getting up late, and you're like already up doing a whole Bible study at like 6 a.m. in the morning. I don't know. You're already having breakfast, serving the people. They probably don't even go to EYA. I don't know. But you're legit out there doing your thing.
Gosh,
and so legit, like that energy is admirable because, you know what I'm saying? Like I think that people get lost in the negativity of maybe what's going on or the stresses or the traumas or whatever. And it's like, it removes you from the situation.
Completely.
And then it removes you fully, so then everybody else does not get to experience you fully.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I just think you're dope. So,
I love you.
Love
This
you
has
too,
been
man.
so
Yes,
much fun.
definitely,
I
definitely.
love
You have one tagline and one thing that you want to live by that you can leave with the people.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
One punchline.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, it would probably be, I know this is cheesy, but it's got to be the book title.
Okay.
And not because I want you to buy the book, because I want you to have grace for yourself. And that's always becoming. I'm nowhere that you need to be. I'm where I am supposed to be, but I have so much more ahead of me. And you do too. You do too.
Wild. That's wild. Okay, I was gonna say something else about your spoken word, because you were doing spoken word. She wrote. How did you write these points down? How did you?
So yeah, as people are talking, I'm learning. Like, I'm a speaker, but I am also a learner. So I just write notes the whole weekend, and then the night before, the morning of, generally the morning of 3:30, God likes to wake me up, even when I'm on the wrong coast, and I just start putting it together. I'm like, wow, this is, and I do it in order because that's the story of our weekend. And I pull something from every single person who was brave enough to hold the mic, even the people who weren't planning on it. I see Shania over there.
She was recording it, and then whenever you said empty, and I was like,
I got you.
That was
got
dope,
you.
For real though, yeah, you gotta give.
I would love, I love how you memorize yours. And do you know Hosanna Wong? Are you familiar with her?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I have to introduce you to her. She's, I mean, I don't know her personally. I would love to, but I witness her work, and she does spoken words that are that long that she memorizes. I do so much so often that I love to shift and change and be creative with the new things that are put in my hands. And so I have never cemented one like you've cemented yours. And so I would love to have that signature one that I can always fall back to. But I enjoy it. I've been writing since I dated an emo boyfriend in 9th grade. That's truly why I started writing. He would write me these songs and poems and 100% and Dashboard Confessional and all these things. And so I'm like, I guess I need to start writing. And that was
be cool too.
I did. I wanted to be so emo. Could you imagine me emo? Not emo. And yet my words were good. I still have all the notebooks, all of them. I should bust them out one day.
As well. It has receipts that I wrote on, because I used to work at a sandwich shop, so I'd pull the receipts on.
That's awesome. And those are the things you get to seal in your book. Did you ever see Greenlights, Matthew McConaughey's book?
I've not.
He has all his journals since he was little, and he actually sealed in imagery those things. So if you had receipts with your handwriting, it was nuts. Then in the middle of his book, especially if you listen to the Audible, he does this rad thing. He's like, bumper sticker, and he says a tagline. And you're like, that was totally abrupt. It's completely in the middle of a story, and then it goes into what he shares next. And so he's an artist. And so I pull energy from other people and create it in the way that God has me create it.
Amazing job, for real.
Thank you. Dope. It was fun.
Tell everybody where they can follow you at, so they can follow you on anything.
I'm on YouTube, Tamara Andress. I'm on Instagram, Tamara Andress. Pretty much www.tamaraandress. It's my name. And then all things Fit and Faith Media are all me too.
Yo, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
So good.
Safe travels to East Coast.
Yes.
And we'll see you
soon. GNWY, let's go.
Yo, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Generation GNWY podcast. Do not forget to rate, review, subscribe, do all the things so we can get her story out more effectively. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Peace.